Welcome back to 15th Street Automotive. Today we're looking at a 2015 Camaro SS 6.2 liter. Customer's concern is a bunch of lights on in the dash, and I noticed when I pulled it in that the lights are on, but it also has the gauges flicker. They twitch. Tack and temperature and oil pressure, they kind of twitch around. This is coming from another shop, and they couldn't figure it out, so they brought it to us. So we're going to get into this one. I'll bring you along for our adventure and see what we find. Alright, so we're running now, and you can see brake lights on, check engine lights on, traction control lights on, and you can also see that those the tack is twitchy. When the other, let me go down here to these other gauges down here. On the console you can see those gauges are twitching too. It's just gotten started, so I mean the coolant temp light or gauge isn't twitching yet, but it will. But you can see the others are just being real erratic. So let's scan this for codes and see if we get what we get in there. Also, we get a service provider or service power steering indicator on in the dash there too. So possibly something going on with the power steering control module as well. There you can see the temperature gauge is twitching down there too. Alright, let's get in the scanner and see what we see. Do a complete scan on here, see what we get. Well, we're missing some modules there. If you look here, the thing gray means there's no response, and I'm pretty sure we have an engine control module on here, and I'm pretty sure we have a body control module on here, and I'm pretty sure there's an electronic brake control module on here. TCM's got code. There's a power steering control module that we had that light on. Chassis control module. And what's the PSCM? No, telematics. Let's go in here and see what we see for codes there. Lost communication with engine control module, EBCM, and BCM. Huh, imagine that. Let's go back out of here, go back to auto scan. Let's do a quick erase. Fault scan. BCM's now showing something. That's weird. But now the TCM has no codes in it. Something's going goofy with this thing. Looks like it's all the things on the high-speed CAN network. But now the BCM doesn't have one. We got something going on with that network there, because we got nothing on the ECM, and the thing's running. So obviously there's the ECM is working, but a bus network problem would possibly explain our twitchy gauges too. Let's check. Quick check on this thing would be to check resistance on the bus network. We're looking for 60 ohms. That would tell us that both of our terminating resistors are in place. One of them is going to be in the ECM for sure, and if we call that the front of the front of the network, typically on the Chevrolets, the back resistor is just a standalone resistor, a 120 ohm resistor. But if we check here at the OBD2 connector on pins 6 and 14, and we get 60 ohms, then we know that the network is physically intact. But we might have a module, one of these modules is pulling it down. It could be one that's even actually communicating. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of these that are grayed out. But something on that network isn't working right. So let's get a quick check on the pin 6 and 14, check for resistance. After that, we'll pull up some schematics and see if we can't come up with a plan of attack on this. I got my breakout box attached to the ALDL here. I attached my dongle for the Autel to it so that we still can communicate with the Autel if we need to. So we're going to plug our banana jack leads into the banana jack of the breakout box. That'll tell us if our resistance of the network is correct. It should be 60 ohms, and we're looking at 61 ohms, so that's good. That means our network physically is in place, but due to the lack of communication on that whole network, we've got a module that's pulling it down. So we need to figure out a plan of attack, how to go after this. I'd rather not pull every module out of this thing and check powers and grounds. But let's get a schematic and take a look at this. Alright, so I printed out this schematic for the network in question. GM high-speed LAN is what it's called. So here is the DLC. That's where we're checking our resistance. And down here you can see that there is a 120 ohm resistor, and that's a kind of a standalone resistor. It's kind of how GM likes to do it. Typically it's in the back of the vehicle on the other side of the chassis control module. On the trucks they put it in line with the fuel pump control module as well. But on the other end of it is the 120 ohm resistor that is inside the ECM. Again, that's typically how GM does it. So 120 ohm, put them together in parallel, and you will get 60 ohm at the DLC. So we need to break this thing down to manageable chunks. Now I looked this thing up, and we don't have a headlamp leveling control module. We don't have that TR7 RPO code, so I scratched that out. We're not going to be looking at that. But all these other modules, the chassis control module, telematics, suspension control module, telematics, EBCM, automatic transmission control module, power steering control module, and the ECM are all present. So what I think I'm going to do now is, because we can see the module or the resistors in there, I'm going to create a resistor, and I'm just going to move it up the line until I find my problem. So basically, we don't have any communication with the BCM, EBCM, transmission control module, power steering control module. We sometimes have it with the automatic automatic transmission control module, but sometimes we don't. Comes and goes. I believe our problem is on this half of the network. So if you look here, there's a body control module there. There's a body control module there. This is like basically the gateway for this module. It connector X2 goes to the DLC. Connector X1 goes to this half of the network. Connector X6 goes to this half of the network. So I think we're going to start with this one because I believe this is where we're having our bulk of our problem with communication. The electronic brake control module light is on in the dash. So we're going to start with this network here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this resistor and I'm going to put it in place of the EBCM. So basically I'm going to move this resistor up the line to right here. Actually right here. If when we do that we get communication with the body control module back, we know the body control module is not our problem, that it's further down this line. And then we also know that it's on this problem, it's on this circuit. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And then what we'll do is if we get the BCM back, then we'll move it down to the next module. We'll put it in place of the automatic control module, automatic transmission control module. And if we get communication back on the EBCM, we know the EBCM is not the problem. And we'll just keep going down the line until we lose our communication again. If we never lose our communication, we get all the way down here and we still have communication, then our problem's one of these modules, and we'll go after those. So that's how we're going to start this. So what I've got here is this is a little variable resistor. I got it with the AES Wave Uconnect kit. So basically you can dial in a resistance that you want here and it comes across these two lines. So if I put these in here, the banana jacks in here, you can see I've dialed in 120 ohms. So, and then you can lock it down right here. So it's locked in at 120 ohms. So if I put this resistor in place of a module, the DLC will see that resistor essentially right here. And if the problem is in this line, then we'll get our BCM communication back. So that's what we're going to do. So our first stop, we're not going to check at the BCM because we want to see if going after the BCM brings that BCM back. If going here doesn't bring the BCM back, then our problem is either in the BCM or on this line here. So it's a place to start. That's what we're going to do. So let's get to the EBCM. Luckily it's super easy to get to on this particular model. So we're going to go unplug that, connect our variable resistor into the circuit. Let's see, we're going to be to pin 14 and pin 26. Will tell us that's where we're going to connect those circuits. So we're lucky enough to have the EBCM easy access. It's in the engine compartment, top of the engine compartment, super easy to get to. We're going to unplug this thing. Now I noticed when I got here that this cover was missing and nothing locking it down. So that's a problem right off the bat. But let's see, our pins need to be, our pins for the network on that EBCM are pins 14 and 26. So we're going to find pins 14 and 26. So if we look real close here, so that's pin 13 right here. Pin 1 is here, this big lug here, and pin 13 is this big lug here. So the next line is 14. So we need to check that circuit there, and then pin 26 is, that's 25, so 26 is right there. So we're going to jump across those two. Let's back probe that. So if we use a back probes and go from pin 14 there and pin 26 here, if we look at our multimeter, we have 61 ohms, so we're back to a complete network circuit. So let's go look at our communication, see if we get BCM back. All right, key on. Now let's go in here and do a quick erase. Now we're not going to get any of those modules back because we only have the BCM on that line attached, basically. So let's see if we get the BCM back. Oh, we got a BCM there. First, let's see if we can communicate with it. But that brought the BCM back online. So BCM... see if we can communicate. Ooh, we got some communication there. Oh, we got something going here. Let's go immobilize our data. That's in BCM. Okay, we got communication back. Okay, that tells us that our problem is definitely on that line of the on that line of the network, that half of the network, coming out of connector X2 of the BCM. So we don't even need to look at the side of the network that's coming out of connector X6 because we've regained communication with the BCM by isolating that half of the network out of connector X2. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next module in line. We'll plug the EBCM back in, complete that circuit, and then we will go to the next module in line. I believe it is the transmission control module. And we'll do the same thing and see if we get the BCM and the EBCM back online. If we do, then we know that our EBCM is not the problem, and we know that our BCM is not the problem. So then we'll just continue down the line. So the next step is to put this thing up in the air, disconnect the transmission control module, and add that terminating resistor to that connector. All right, so if we had our resistor here, and that brought our BCM back online. So now we want to check the EBCM. We need to go to this connector here and see if we put our terminating resistor at 11 and 10 of connector 1 of the transmission control module, we should be able to, well, let's see if we get the EBCM back on. So next step is to connect our resistor here between 10 and 11. Boy, the writing on that thing is small. So looks like 10 is right there. 14's over there. So 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so 10 and 11 are right there. So back probe into 10. And 11. So I can check my resistance on this thing. Move this here a little bit. So I can make sure that I'm in the right circuit. I have my multimeter sitting over here. If I can get it over here, bring you over here. I have my multimeter here, and you can see I'm back to 60 ohms. Let me see if you can see that there. It's a glare bad. Okay, as you can see, I'm back to 60 ohms. If I unplug one of these, let me unplug it. I go to 120. So that opens up that circuit. So I can't get you, this is connected to the ALDL, so I can't stretch it to where you can see both of them at the same time. But as soon as I plug that back in at the connector, this is going to go back to 60. That tells me that I'm in my in the right pins for that network. So come back over here, and I'll put this back into pin 11. And I'm back to 60 over there. Okay, so now we've eliminated everything that's south of the EBCM with this in here. So this circuit has the BCM and the EBCM in line. So now let's go back upstairs, see if we have our communication with our BCM and our EBCM. All right, so back to key on. We're gonna check our scan data, make sure we have, let's see here, escape. Let's do another fault scan, and we get our EBCM back on and our BCM. Okay, so we're getting, we didn't have our EBCM at all before. Let's go in here and see if we get data. Live data. We couldn't get that far before. Okay, so there's our data. So we've got BCM and EBCM back online now, and so the next thing to do is plug the transmission control module back in and go to the next module in line, which I believe is the power steering control module, and we'll see if hooking that terminating resistor back in there will give us our transmission control module. Okay, so here's where we're at here right now. We've gone through all these modules here. So now we want to check the transmission control module, see if it's online, and we'll do that by connecting our terminating resistor to pins 10 and 11 of the power steering control module, which is this connector right here. So pins 10 and 11. That's funny. It says connector X1 has at least 14 pins, because that's pin 14 right there, and that's only a 10-pin connector. So this schematic is wrong. Let me figure out what pins we want. I mean, we know it's a tan and a tan black, but there's 2 tans and 2 tan blacks there. Let me see if I can't find a schematic on a different source and see what that actually is supposed to be. Okay, so I got the schematic from ProDemand. The other one was all data, and it was wrong. So this one here shows a little different picture. There's the power steering control module there. There's our tan black and a tan black. One goes in, one goes out. So we're looking for the circuit that goes from the automatic transmission control module to the power steering. And that would be this circuit right here, which is 8 and 9 on a 10-pin connector. And they're calling it connector 2. So the all data was just a misprint. But anyway, we're looking for pins 8 and 9. Boy, those are little tiny numbers. That's pin 10 right there. So our 2 pins are these 2 right here, 8 and 9. That's pin 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we back probe here, we should be able to get pin 9 and pin 8. And we're not in there yet, so. Okay, our multimeter over there shows well, it shows 72 ohms, but that means we're in there. And now let's go up and see if we got communication with the transmission control module. All right, got our key back on. Go to our scan data here. And we're gonna do we'll do another auto scan, fault scan. All right, so we have our BCM, our EBCM, and now we have our traction control module back on. Let's go and make sure we can communicate there. Live data, transmission. And we have our transmission data back. Alright, so go back here to auto scan. We have our TCM, our EBCM, and our BCM back online. We still don't have our ECM or our power steering control module. Those are the other 2 modules on that network, on that half of the network. So we're gonna plug the power steering control module back in. And then go to the engine control module and install that terminating resistor into that network connector. And that's the last one in the line on that schematic. So we're gonna see if that brings the power steering control module back on. If it does, then our problem has to be in the ECM. The ECM is pulling that network down. So let's get back to the plug that power steering control module back in and then get to the ECM. All right, so we got the power steering control module plugged back in. Now we're going to be going into looks like pins 27 and 28 for the engine control module. Light here. Oh, let's see here. 27 and 28 are going to be Now I'm doing front probing because I've got these test adapters from my AES Wave U-Connect kit. Otherwise you'd want to back probe those so you don't damage the connectors. So that's bypassing the ECM with our terminating resistor. Let's go see what we get for data. Okay, key on. Come over here and we do a fault scan. Let's see what we get for data on this thing here. Okay, so, and we get our power steering control module back in. Let's make sure we got data on that. And our lab data is back on the power steering. So, if we go back here to auto scan, we have data back on BCM, EBCM, transmission control module, and the power steering control module. All those modules did not have data when the ECM was plugged in. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that thing back in and see if we lose those again. If we lose those again, then we know our problem's in the ECM. Then we'll check powers and grounds at the ECM, and we'll either condemn it or we'll continue on with seeing if it's got powers and grounds. Alright, so let's plug this thing back in. We'll move that out of the way. Okay, come back here, key on, and we'll do another fault scan. That's weird. Now we're getting TCM and power steering control module, but no data on EBCM or BCM. So that ECM, now we're getting data on the ECM too. Weird. That ECM is causing all kinds of weird problems on here. See, now we have data on the ECM. Nope, no communication. Weird. Auto scan. Now nothing there. Let's go fault scan. Yeah, see, with that ECM connected, it's all erratic on what we're getting for data. So let's check all our powers and grounds on the ECM, and then we're going to condemn that thing as an ECM. With the ECM bypassed and with that terminating resistor in place of the ECM, I have data on all those modules that are on that line. And with the ECM plugged back in, I don't have communication there. Let's see if I actually have communication on this one. Yeah, see, there's no communication. I don't know why the auto scan shows it is there. So there's no communication on any of those. Let's check here, see if we get any communication here. Yeah, there's no communication there either. That network is getting all pulled down by that ECM being plugged in. So we're gonna sell them an ECM. Actually, let's check powers and grounds on the ECM, and then we'll go from there. But if we have good powers and grounds, we got to condemn an ECM. All right, if we pull this up and grab this is the schematic for the plug-in. Our ground is 73, and 73 is this big connector here. So that's our ground. It's the only ground there is. Our main power is on pin 20. Pin 20 is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 is the fourth one over. So if we go pin 20, okay, you can see that turns that light on. And that's a 3 amp pull right there. 4 amp pull, I believe, maybe. I believe that's a 3 or 4 amp pull. Okay, so the next one we want is pin 19, back to ground. Pin 19, so 17, 18, 19. All right, key on up there in our ground, and 17, 18, 19. Okay, there's power on pin 19. And then pin 18 is our wake up. And we have our wake up voltage. That is all of our powers. And it tests our ground. So by moving that resistor, that terminating resistor down the line from the BCM to the next module, to the next module, to the next module, every time we moved it down a module, it brought that previous module back online. All of those modules that were on the line that had where the ECM was were offline until we get to the eliminating the ECM. And then all 4 of those previous modules came online, which tells us our problem is the ECM pulling that whole network down. So we checked powers and grounds. All the powers and grounds were there. Had everything it needed to do to work, and it was working because the engine runs. I drove it in, but it's pulling that network down, creating communication problems. So we're going to sell them a ECM and a programming, and see if they want to fix it. It's a used car lot. It's their shop couldn't fix it, so they brought it to us. But we'll see if they want to invest some money into getting this thing fixed so they can sell it. Thanks for watching.